dig up that old fossil.
Going to Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
That's no move.
We're all fine here now, thank you. How are you?
Welcome to the Star Wars Nerds Podcast. I'm Dan Vadebonker.
And I'm Kenton Larson.
And we have a number of protests going on in the city here in Winnipeg over the last little while. You may have noticed. Actually, the last time we recorded, you're like, I got to get out of here before downtown gets shut down by the protests. So that's happening again today, although it's a different part of downtown.
I saw another instructor on my bus that day, by the way. Everybody was like fleeing. Yeah, everyone's getting out of here.
But the only reason I mentioned it is because I was coming off the bus in front of our city hall here, which is just a few blocks away from us here in Winnipeg. And there was a protest going on there, not for the Wet'suwet'en thing, which is a whole national, anybody living in Canada is probably having Wet'suwet'en protests. This one has to do with City Hall and cuts to different programs.
I saw that protest.
So that protest is going on there, and I thought it's interesting. You see these people, they're in front of City Hall, they've got their signs up, don't cut our services, it's got the union names and everything on there, and then there are just signs that say honk honk.
They just say honk.
They just say honk honk.
They're pro honk.
I thought they were anti-geese.
No,
I'm just
pro geese.
Yes, they're pro geese. Honk honk. So I thought that was quite funny. And said, "What do you like?" You would say honk if you support us or something like that. That's what you should be saying, not just honk honk. So I thought it was quite funny. I could not honk because I was not in my car, but I honked.
Did you walk by and say honk?
No, I didn't.
Did you get off the bus there? That's what I did.
I did get off the bus there, but I should have yelled honk honk and just kind of kept walking.
Well, I wait for the bus right where they are, so it's this odd combination of it almost feels as though you're part of the protest. Even the bus driver is kind of like confused.
And you're just
about are these people waiting to get on this thing?
Anyway, so today we're going to talk about a number of things in the Star Wars universe. I've made some progress on the video game, which we'll talk about. You watched the new episode of Clone Wars. I did not, but you have some thoughts, and I do as well, just on the overall Clone Wars series. And, of course, last week they announced the High Republic, which is a new initiative that Lucasfilm is undertaking, not for the films, but for books and comic books, it appears. Yeah. But we'll talk about that a little bit
I think you have to say the High Republic. You have to say it high.
You have to sound like Mickey Mouse. Hi, little buddy. We're gonna go to the High Republic.
How high is the High Republic?
How high is wasn't there a movie called How High?
There was a movie called How High about marijuana, wasn't it?
Hold on a second. Yeah.
So the High Republic is Pineapple Express meets Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. This is, that would be very interesting. So
it's funny. This is the first time I equated the word high with that meeting with the High Republic. With that meaning. Sorry, I've never thought of that before.
Let's just jump right into it. Your clickbait article of the week.
Oh, Jabba.
What? How? What are you talking about?
Huh? What? Goodness gracious me.
So the headline is 5 ways Star Wars: The High Republic could revolutionize the movies. And I just, it's a typical listicle headline, very, very clickbaity. Although at least there's only 5 ways. I hate when it says 19 ways, and you're not going to believe number 18.
The problem is, okay, you could do 5 ways the new James Bond movie will revolutionize filmdom, and it won't.
No, of course not.
So let's just start with that. My guess is that if there is a High Republic film, is that the premise?
Well, it is. It's saying the things they're going to be introducing here. So just to explain to people who don't know what it is, there's a video. We'll link to it on YouTube, and very, very prominently features our friend Pablo.
I like that part of it.
Yeah, that's
my favorite part. Yeah,
because he knows what he's talking about. We know that Pablo knows what he's talking about.
Right.
I would trust Pablo to write a story in the High Republic. Unfortunately, he doesn't write any of these things. He just oversees everybody else who writes all these things.
He gets phone calls from authors who are angry about
who don't know
timelines.
Yeah, they don't, but they also don't know what kind of shampoo does a Wookiee use. Pablo knows these things.
Pablo probably has authors calling him, and they're like, I have Luke Skywalker running in on this thing, and Pablo has to say he's not born yet. There's probably things like that. I'll bet.
I'm sure that's
There's
true.
Probably 1,000 different things like the stories like that he could tell.
Yeah.
Because not every author who writes a Star Wars book is familiar with the vast timeline, like the fans are, and even the fans are a little confused. I have to admit, I'm confused.
Now,
sometimes.
I don't know. You can tell me if you think this might add to the confusion. So what they're doing is they're focusing on a period of time, a couple hundred years before the Skywalker saga begins. So maybe 200 years in the past.
All
Says
right.
around 200 years prior to the start of Star Wars. Prior to the start of the Phantom Menace. So even and so it's just for now comics and books, novels. There's no video games. There's no anything else. But you expect once this gets rolling, they will have other things fall of it, including possibly movies if that goes there. So this piece is saying, this is from Cinema Blend. It is saying that let's see what the reasons are here. The High Republic is set in a time where the Jedi. I hate when they say time where. It should be a time when the Jedi are thriving. So we're going to see, I guess, more so than in the Phantom Menace and those prequel movies, because the Jedi are thriving in those times as well. Like Jedi are essentially the galactic police or whatever. But is this the same thing?
Well, maybe it's like when the psychedelic furs had a hit and their hair got bigger.
Right.
They went from indie band to pop darling.
Yeah, yes.
That's this. It's the Jedi Knights going from indie band to pop superstars. One Direction, the One Direction of Jedi Knights.
Yeah, it says the galaxy is large is at peace thanks in large part. This is a poorly written article.
It is.
To the destruction of the Sith Empire. Now, I would be more interested in hearing a story about the destruction of the Sith Empire.
Yeah.
Like, let's tell that story. That comes, I guess, is before this. So we're not going quite that far back.
A story could focus on the bad guys. Like
I would love to see that. Yeah. So this is, again, so this is saying that they're going to have, it's a time of peace, but there are some outliers and some different villains in the universe that they're going to deal with, that the Jedi will deal with. Although other things I've read here is say that not every story is going to deal with the Jedi. It's going to have other like smugglers and whatever else, whatever normal Star Wars stuff we have. There's a new villainous faction of, quote, space Vikings, which I kind of like the idea of space Vikings. I don't remember a movie called Ice Pirates.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that film?
I do.
That always made me think of space Vikings for some reason. It's just these guys who kind of don't care about anything, and they're just it's not quite as bad as like the Reavers in Firefly, which are like completely savage. These are like just jerks who don't care. Well, even though we know Vikings weren't really jerks.
Do you watch Norsemen?
No, you told me about it. I've seen a couple episodes. It's very funny.
Those are jerks.
That's right.
They're a bunch of jerks.
The opportunity to flesh out major dark side lore on the screen. Now, again, these are speaking in terms of films, but we can learn more about the Sith and about the dark side through this kind of window of Star Wars history. That's another reason they have here. The opportunity to tell disconnected stories. And I think this might be the one I agree with, is that these are going to be stories that have nothing to do with the Skywalker saga and that are not going to be connected to this, this bloated period of time that we've always been coming back to, that around the New Hope, that whole area. We're nowhere near that. We're hundreds of years in the past. So the only possible character that might still be around is Yoda.
Right.
There's nobody else. Although, I don't know, maybe there's some other Jedi.
Well, I think we need our touchstone characters and everything, so I imagine Yoda would be around.
I really hope they don't find a way for R2-D2 to be in this, because that's just ridiculous. We know 3PO wasn't built yet, but R2-D2, we still don't know how he was built, but I think that's a good thing. So basically, they're going to roll this out with comic books and novels, and then from there, they're going to see where it goes, I assume. What do you think about this whole thing?
Well, I think when they had the Game of Thrones guys tied to Star Wars, I thought Knights of the Old Republic was the no-brainer, was what they need to do.
This isn't that. This isn't Old Republic.
I know.
This is High Republic,
yes,
right?
But that's my disappointment, is that
That would also cover the Sith War as well.
Well,
the Knights of the Old Republic is the Sith War, for sure.
And I love, everybody loves the Knights of the Old Republic games. The second one was a little short, but with that complaint aside, those are great games. Everybody remembers them fondly and wants more. And hey, if they released a new one of those, people would go crazy.
Or even just remaster the original.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I haven't been on my phone, but it's just not as fun to play on the phone.
And because you make decisions and stuff, and it's better on the...
It's a console game, so it should be on a console. But I would just like to see a remaster, like, even if you can make the graphics a bit better, that would be enough for me, and I could replay it from there, I
mean, for their day, the graphics were fantastic.
Oh, for sure, yeah, but this is like almost
even
20 years old now.
Yeah, and even the lightsaber play was good for the day. And, there's some complexities in that game, too, but it was... but the characters were actually damn good. And it did, how the Mandalorian made us kind of forget about Boba Fett. And I kind of go, maybe it doesn't, who gives a shit if it's Boba Fett? Who cares? And we're just enjoying the story. Well, I thought Knights of the Old Republic had a similar effect on me, where I thought, like, when I started playing it, I thought, well, these aren't the characters that I really like, but okay. And I played it, and it sort of made me forget about all those other characters, and just made me go, "Wow, this is kind of a cool universe they've created."
That's that's what I loved about it, was
Yes.
that universe.
Right. So I was sort of hoping I'd rather be in that era than in the High Republic.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know why they decided on this. Maybe just because there have been
Fear.
Fear of what?
Fear of the further back you go, the less like Star Wars it is.
Yeah, that could be the case. Although the Knights of the Old Republic still felt very Star Wars to me. You know what I mean? It still had lightsabers, it still had ships, and it had the Force.
Yes and no. There was a more primitive kind of lightsaber, wasn't
Right,
it?
yes. But I like that idea,
Steampunk.
right? See, I would love to see
Yes.
Steampunk Star Wars. I think that
That's
would
what
be
it
a great. I think that's maybe they could still do that 200 years in the past. Like, it's hard to say. I mean, we're still talking about futuristic space travel here, so it's still going to be some sort of advanced technology.
Didn't Darth Revan come from Knights of the Old Republic? Was that the first
Yes,
time?
yeah, I believe so.
Okay, and that's one of my favorite action figures too, the Darth Revan, one of the non.
Oh yeah,
one of the ones, the head scratchers for people who don't play the games or whatever. But I just remember that very well, and I thought the characters were good. It was not a ripoff of Vader. It was like we know that the Sith names always start with Darth, so it was not a Vader ripoff. I just like that. Like, maybe I'll be surprised. I do like anything with Yoda in it, that's for sure. But I had such high hopes that when I thought of Game of Thrones, that could have been Knights of the Old Republic in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah,
that aesthetic.
The overall thrust of this is the pieces I've read say that this universe is going to be focused on telling individual stories, not big, huge tales of like galactic destruction or that kind of thing, which is fine. But I just think there should be some sort of epic aspect to this, where there's got to be one story, man. Maybe they'll save it for a movie. Who knows what they're going to do with that? But there should be one aspect of this that has like, a Jedi fighting a Sith, or a Jedi fighting someone who's on the dark side of the Force.
Yeah.
Right? That conflict between the light and the dark, that's still got to be the kind of through line of the series. I do wish they had gone further back in time. I agree with you. I think that they could have totally gone back. What I was going to say was, you said fear, but what I was going to say was the reason that they didn't go further back is because they've already told some stories. There have been some novels and some comic books set in the time of the Old Republic. They're picking this time period of 200 years ago because there's never really been any stories told from this timeline. So it's kind of fresh and open, and really you can do anything you want with it. I think that's probably the real reason why they chose it.
I do think they at this point need something that's still Star Wars-y. And I think the fear element is the further back you go, the less like the Star Wars everybody knows it is. But I think Star Wars fans go where the stories go. I think for the average viewer, they don't have a clue.
And this is not going to matter until they announce a film.
And if the film's good, that's when the average viewer becomes interested.
Yeah.
If it looks super cool and other people like it.
Now, if they do a film like this, I don't think it will do nearly as well as a traditional Star Wars film.
I don't know.
I don't think they're ever going to get, now that they're quote unquote done with the Skywalker saga, and we'll see if that's true, because they might not be. But if they don't make like a normal, like anything that's not a normal Star Wars movie, does not do as well. Although I guess Rogue One is the one kind of exception, although that one is still set very closely tied in. It's very closely tied into the Star Wars films. Solo didn't do as well because it was not set in your standard Star Wars kind of format.
Marketing.
The marketing and the timing of it was not good as either.
Timing
but
was
I think
bad.
for the most part, most people don't like Solo because of it's not like a traditional Star Wars movie. Whereas you and I like it because it is because of that.
I really
like
like
me too.
it.
I still really like it.
Every time I even catch a glimpse of it, I sort of have to watch the rest. Because I just like to me, it's a big lost opportunity if we never see where that story ultimately, like and maybe Kenobi series will maybe tie together some of that with a little Darth Maul in there. That could be super cool.
Yeah, it's a shame that they're so gun shy that the minute they get any kind of quote non-success or whatever, poor reception, they back off. Like they really did back off very quickly. Once that Solo came out and so-called tanked, although it still made lots of money, it was just didn't make as much as all the other films. They pulled right back and said, okay, no more standalone movies. I'm like, that would have been, I wouldn't have minded the standalone movies. I thought they were a good idea.
Yeah.
And they're not all going to be awesome. I'm sorry, but they're just not. And certainly we know now that not all these Star Wars movies are going to be awesome either. Like there's going to be division no matter what. So I just wish they were a little more bold in their choices of like, okay, we're going to continue on with this path. Let's just see it through and see what happens. But they just kind of backed off. And now this High Republic is kind of where they get to experiment with stuff before they pitch it as movies.
But it's still safe in that if Yoda's the main character or something, then it's safe because then we...
And who knows? We don't really know how old any of these other aliens are. So Chewbacca could conceivably be in it because he's like 200 years old, isn't he?
It's so easy to keep...
baby Chewbacca.
Yeah, you can keep casting Chewbacca in every decade. It doesn't really matter if his Wookiees are hundreds and...
I was looking for him in the video game I'm playing, the Fallen Order. I was looking because you spent a good portion of that game on Kashyyyk, and you see all these Wookiees all over the place. But I don't think he's in any of those scenes. There's just a bunch of generic Wookiees.
Right.
They all sound like Chewbacca because they're just using Chewbacca sound effects. But anyway, So basically, that's the news here. The High Republic is coming. Check out the video if you haven't already. Again, it's great to see Pablo in this. Looks like they had a really cool kind of writers retreat meeting.
Yeah, I like that
and
part.
That kind of idea. I like the idea of them all kind of getting together and discussing the thing as a whole.
Yeah.
And then each writer will go off individually and create their own stories around it. Yeah. That's a great process.
And I like
think.
Pablo sitting at the table there talking to the writers. That's a pretty good shot.
Yeah, he's the guy. He's the man.
Yeah, he is.
Again, well, I will absolutely check these out when they come out. We'll talk about it here on the podcast when they do.
Yeah, on a related note, and I don't know if do you have this as a separate item? The Rise of Skywalker novelization.
No.
Okay, well, we're talking about books, so let's throw this in, and that is a couple passages leaked this week from the novelization of the Rise of Skywalker, which will be coming out soon.
Why isn't it out already? Seems like late.
Well, it's almost like they threw the story together at the last minute. Wah, wah, wah. But so today another podcast, and I can't remember which one. They've already read the book, and so
the whole thing leaked.
So I guess it must have. Okay. So people are reading it.
Well, I would like to pay for it like a normal person.
And there's,
come on.
I know I was thinking that for upcoming. I mean, there's lots we need to do in this podcast, including talk about. Now that we've had time to sit with the new trilogy to sort of hash that all out.
Oh, we've also got to watch The Rise of Skywalker on the podcast as well.
We got to watch that and do our commentary. And we have to read the novelization, I think.
I have not read any of the novelizations for the new movies.
I read The Force Awakens, and there was a couple additional scenes, but nothing major. But I think this one bucks the trend.
All right.
Because there's already a scene that's leaked where Kylo Ren goes to visit when he goes to visit the Emperor, and the first scene in the movie where you sort of see a tank of Snokes and all of that, a surplus of Snokes.
That's right.
You see that, and in the book, apparently they talk more about the cloning technology. So he is a clone, and Ian McDiarmid, I think this week said his line in the movie, which isn't in the final film. One of the lines that they delivered but didn't use was, "I'm more than a clone, but less than a man," kind of thing, like somewhere between man and clone.
I mean, he's like a eunuch. Is that what that means? Oh. They didn't clone. They didn't clone every part of him. Is that what that means?
Does it mean he doesn't have a wiener?
How did he have a grandchild? If that's the case.
He's like a vegetarian hot dog. No wiener.
No, he's the dude from Game of Thrones, the guy who has no junk. The
that guy.
The bald guy. Anyway,
that guy.
That guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, there's that, and then there's, I think, the big Reylo controversy. Though, we need to buy the book, but I think it's that when they kiss at the end, there is no romance involved. That it is only a life-giving something or other.
BS.
Yeah,
Come on. No, it's not. I'm calling BS. You don't kiss somebody on the lips when it's not romantic.
But this is. I believe this discussion comes from actual leaks, but maybe not. Let's wait for the book to come out and read it ourselves to see. And I think this more than any other movie, I think this is the book to read, just because it just seemed like there's so many unanswered questions about the Rise of Skywalker. Even people who love the movie have questions about things like that.
Yeah.
Like where Palpatine came from and all of that other stuff. So
So you think they didn't want to refer to the word clone in the film? There's no mention of the word clone.
Maybe.
Although somebody maybe says it.
does someone say the word clone?
Maybe when they hear that he's back, that Palpatine's back, they might have said something. I don't remember. Anyway, but yeah, like it's they're just if they get into clones, then we're back in the Clone Wars, and then that's a whole other bucket of fish.
Well,
as
I
it were.
think
Bucket of clones.
and I do think if you say the word clone, it harkens back to prequels, and it just seems like this current trilogy just didn't want to go there.
Which is unfortunate because I think they should have. I really think they could have. They could have done that.
It was
tied
an
it all together.
opportunity to really and JJ kept saying, "I'm tying together. I'm ending the series."
Yeah, I mean, he didn't really.
No, not really.
No.
Like there's lots of different things that could have happened there.
Speaking of Clone Wars, let's talk about the series. Episode 2 dropped on Friday. You didn't like it, you told me.
No, not so much. Well, this is what I like, and I said it last week. I really like the animation. I think the animation is stellar. There's lots that I like about the animation. To me, and last week we talked about it a bit, where the storyline is just like I'm listening to other podcasts where grown men are weeping at the Clone Wars, and so I don't want to. Good for them, and I'm glad. I'm glad that grown men. But I think those grown men were kids when the Clone Wars originally.
That
ran.
has to be it, yeah.
And so to them, this is sort of like squeezing out the last bit, knowing that this is the last season, really squeezing out every drop.
It's
of
nostalgia
enjoyment.
for them.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yes.
So that's the same thing that we feel about the original trilogy. We were kids when that came out. You know, that's what we feel about it. So
and to me, watching The Rise of Skywalker, it was squeezing the last bit of Luke Skywalker out of the saga. Last chance, like all that. One last Harrison Ford. Like all of that stuff was the stuff that I love the most, and because that's really what I wanted out of this trilogy. But I am just the stuff that's in the season of Clone Wars. It just seems. It's just not resonating with me. And in fact, here's the funny thing. I remember I almost have trouble piecing together the plot of episode 2 because it just seems like there's things that happen in there. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but I'll just say I don't care. There's things. Well, that's the thing. I didn't care as much either going in, but I think the first episode was better than the second one.
Okay.
The second one has got. I mean, I guess the news item in the second one is that we find out that Obi-Wan knows that Anakin has something going with Padme.
Okay.
That he knows already.
Oh, okay.
And so it's not so when we see Revenge of the Sith, it's not something that, it's something that Obi-Wan already knew was going on. So when he says to Padme in Revenge of the Sith, are these Anakin, does he say your babies? I
don't remember.
Are they his, the babies? So, see, there's something.
Right.
Is he the father? That's
Yeah.
what he says. Is he the father? So he knows, but this establishes that he knows that there's something going on. And there's an uncomfortable scene. This is the thing I remember most from the episode. And I'll tell you what it reminded me of. But there's a scene where Rex guards Anakin as Anakin goes into this room and then talks to Padme secretly. And then he comes out of the room, and Obi-Wan's standing there and doesn't look. And basically, Rex has to he's in there counting lightsabers or something. Like he's got a cover for Anakin.
He's masturbating.
There you go. Okay, so what I got out of that scene was it was like Anakin was a teenager in his bedroom,
Right.
and Mom's waiting outside, and she knows what's going on in there, but she's not going to walk in. So then the teenager emerges and is chastened by the mom. And so he walks out and lies to Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan says, "Say hi to Padme for me." I know what you're doing in that room, is basically what he says.
Oh, okay.
Then the rest of the episode is the Bad Batch doing what the Bad Batch does.
Right.
Being a bad batch. And by the way, the more I think about it, they're the good batch.
Well, they are.
They help.
Yeah.
They're helpful.
But they're a bad batch of clones is the idea, because there's something went wrong with their cloning.
They're the good batch because they're fighting for the forces of good. The bad batch would turn on the other good one.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so
I think it sounds better. The alliteration and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's the dirty dozen. That's
Right,
what it is.
exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, I can't remember what happened with the Bad Batch. I watched it and it had zero resonance with me to the extent that I just don't remember that story. I remember some cool animation and stuff, But I'm kind of like, okay, this is our final season, guys. This is it.
Yeah.
Like there's only, I think there's 12 episodes maybe.
There is 12, yeah.
Is there? Okay.
And that leads into my comment here. So this is, I post all of our episodes and everything that we do on our Facebook group. And you can join, you search out Media Nerds or Star Wars Nerds on Facebook. You can find us and join the group. So I posted our episode where we talked about the first episode of the Clone Wars, the first news.
I'm sure
episode.
not everybody was a fan, but.
No, actually we only got one comment on it, but it was from Aiden, and Aiden says, it was cool to see it finally finished, but I've already seen the whole Bad Batch arc in an unfinished state. I'm more looking forward to episodes 5 through 12. And I had no idea what he was talking about. I didn't know.
They showed the animatic not Comic-Con,
Celebration.
Star Wars Celebration.
This is before they knew they were going to be bringing it back, when they thought it was all said and done, and they were never going to come back.
Wasn't that the same moment? I think they said we're bringing it back, and everyone lost their minds, and then they showed the animatic? Or am I wrong?
I don't know. Hold on, let me look it up.
I was under the impression it was the exact same event where they announced it was coming back, but maybe I'm wrong. I was not there, so
you weren't?
Nope. I feel like I was. Okay.
Yeah, it says this arc was previously released in story reel form, premiering at Celebration Anaheim 2015. So this is way before they announced. This is back before they knew it was coming back. They just finished, because again, it had been canceled from Netflix, and they had never finished it. They were still working on season 7 when it was canceled. So they just decided to show it, right? Show some content at Celebration, and there it is. And of course, it leaked online. So people have seen that, and that is episodes, the first 4 episodes of this series, which is the Bad Batch arc. So this is already out there. They've already recorded voices and everything. It had already all been done. All they had to do is finish the animation on it. So that's kind of sucks that half of the season, almost half the season, is already known what's going to happen. People know it's out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's no surprise there, and that's a bit disappointing to me. I would have just started from scratch. Why do we even need to do those episodes? Why would you just start from scratch?
If you know something's the last season, then that is your opportunity to squeeze every last morsel of goodness out of what you're able to do.
Yeah.
So it's too bad about that.
Like, it's like saying, okay, well, we've already got this half done. Let's just finish it, and then we just have 6 episodes to do. It's like they're trying to save money or something. And come on, this is Star Wars we're talking about here. No need to save money. They're going to make tons of it. So I think it's a bit lazy for them to do that, honestly. We wish they would just kind of throw that out. It's an arc we'll never see. And then we'll just start from and do 12 new episodes. Right now, it seems like we're only getting 7 new episodes. Right. Essentially is what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Or 8 new episodes, whatever it is, 8 new episodes.
It reminds me of, we talked about Better Call Saul on our other podcast on Media Nerds. And that's a show that ends next season. So it's got one more season. So as we get closer to the ending, it gets more and more tense, and it boils, just like Breaking Bad did.
Yeah.
Boils with pressure every week after week after week, knowing it's going to lead up to an inescapable conclusion. And these Clone Wars episodes, I don't get that at all. I don't get that kind of like, oh, wow, like we're really building. And now, hey, who knows? Maybe the last episodes will do that. But for now, it's just a little, it's like, hey, all right, this is fine. And I don't hate it. But to me, it's just, it's like when you watch entertainment for kids. I appreciate the animation. I like certain little elements in there.
Yeah.
And the voice acting. I mean, it's all good. But I was hoping it'd be like a little more tense and a little more.
There's no stakes.
Let's raise the stakes. Let's make this go somewhere.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So I don't really have the desire to watch this from week to week. Like I said, I didn't watch the latest one, and I might just wait until they all come out and just binge them all at once or something. I don't know. I will see how it goes.
I'll probably keep it up.
If something interesting happens, tell me, because I'm probably not going to come back to it unless you mention something.
And
really
I shouldn't.
cool.
I feel bad even saying it, but because there's other podcasters out there who I know love it, and a certain age of fandom that just to them this is sort of like every dream come true. So that's good, and I'm glad. I'm glad they like it that much.
I'm trying to think of it. It's like if they brought back the Droids cartoon for us. I guess something like that, or the Ewoks cartoon or something like that.
Even that,
those are only 2 seasons long.
Even when that was new, I barely liked it.
It was very disconnected from the main storyline. It was kind of the first of the extended universe of Star Wars, right? Series stories told outside the the main story, the main films. But yeah, I did rewatch a lot of those episodes recently. They're all on YouTube, and I really enjoyed it. I thought that was really interesting.
Also for kids at the time, mostly.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Interesting. I saw a video recently, a very poorly researched video about the value of Star Wars toys.
Oh, yeah?
And it said, here are the top 10 most valuable Star Wars toys. But it was basing almost all of its information on, this was listed on eBay for $10,000. So it's like, well.
You can list anything.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't mean anything. Although there were a few instances of things going at auction for certain prices, like the Boba Fett prototype or something like that, which is in the tens of thousands because there's only one or two of them. But there's one figure that is apparently really rare because it was only released in Brazil, and that is the figure of the villain from the Droids cartoon. Vlix, yeah. And it's funny because again, most people would not know what that was if you saw it, but that is just released in Brazil, so not very many of them out there.
And actually, it's funny that you said that because I have the complete classic set of original Star Wars figures, not in the box, of course, because as a kid I put them away in little. They're in plastic and they're complete and they've got everything, but they're just not on the card.
Right.
So I could probably, I don't know how many. It's probably worth a couple grand at this point. I don't know what it would be worth, but at one point in my life, I was like, you know what? I don't have any of those droids figures. I'm like, maybe that's something I want to get into. Maybe. So I went to one of the collectible shops. Was it called Raven Collectibles?
Yes.
Okay, but now it's not.
It's Cobra now.
Oh, okay.
Cobra Collectibles.
I was actually having that discussion with someone today, and I could not remember what it used to be called, Raven. So I went to Raven, and they had the R2-D2 and C-3PO figures from Droids, and they were like overpriced. Like sometimes, like if you only have one of a figure, it's going to cost more. But they were in the hundreds of dollars. And I looked at it and I was like, maybe I'll do this. And then I went home and I did the same thing. I researched the other figures, and the other ones are like Vlix. For a loose Vlix, it's like $10,000 or something.
Yeah.
And I was just like, no, I'm not.
There's no way you can complete that collection.
No, and I'm not going to rip off that Band-Aid. It's never going to happen that I'm going to pay that much for that collection. But I love those figures. I really like what they did with them.
I like the art style of the series. I really do. Like, I think that's a great, it's kind of this cool cartoony look. Similar, I mean, again, Clone Wars has its own style that I like as well. So I like when they do these animated things. But I really hope, like, we're going to get this last season of Clone Wars and it's going to go, but I still hope, like, I didn't watch Resistance. I didn't really get into it. I loved Rebels, got into Rebels. I don't know why I don't know why I didn't like Resistance. Maybe it was the animation style. Maybe it was that I didn't care about that story. I don't know. But I hope they continue to produce animated series, and I'm sure they will. But I'm really looking forward to, like, seeing what they're going to do next.
Oh, they will.
It's really cool.
Hey, it's easy. There should always be an animated Star Wars series out there covering something.
Yeah.
Now, there is such a thing as an animated series for adults.
Sure. There was. Didn't they release something recently where they were working on one for adults, a Star Wars animated series. It was like a CGI series, or maybe it was a video game, and they had some like test footage or whatever you call it. Out there, just kind of showing the environments and stuff. But it was more along the lines of a Grand Theft Auto for Star Wars. That's what it was.
Oh, I think that was George Lucas. That was going to be a live action show.
Oh, it was a live action. Okay.
Yeah,
but they showed like some of the CGI backgrounds and stuff they developed, and it looked very cool. And again, I would love to see that kind of thing happen, but I don't think Disney's going to do it. Like, they canceled that Detours thing as well, which seemed really silly. They've got a lot of those episodes produced, actually. Those Detours episodes are done, but I don't think they're ever going to release those either.
See,
right?
The Mandalorian does a good job. It's a show for adults, but they even go middle of the road in terms of there's a baby Yoda, so kids.
Sure, there's a little bit of cuteness to it. Yeah.
So kids, there's something in there that will bring kids in. So, but it is possible to do a darker Star Wars, and I'm not even talking about like nudity and blood and guts, nothing like that.
I wouldn't even mind blood and guts.
A more intense version, of Star Wars, and that's not for kids, and you could definitely do that The Simpsons is arguably sometimes it's for kids and sometimes it isn't. There's models out there for different kinds of anime.
I would make the argument that Star Wars now has more adult fans than kids fans. Like, there's more grown-ups who like Star Wars than there are kids who like Star Wars. Like I said, I don't think this new trilogy is going to inspire the fandom that the last two trilogies did. But the time will tell on that one. But I just, don't feel like there's a lot of kids out there who just clamor for Star Wars. Even my youngest, who is like among my 3 kids, the biggest fan, he doesn't care as much about it. He'll watch it, but he's like not saying. I told him about the Clone Wars cartoon. He's like, oh, okay. He's like, when does that happen? I said, well, it's like a prequel thing. He's never seen the prequel, so he doesn't really care about it.
Yeah,
he doesn't want to see it. So anyway,
well, kids are inundated with entertainment now,
right.
and it's just not the same as
Yeah.
when we got one movie a decade kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you had to be a fan.
Yeah, you just enjoyed it as much as possible because we didn't get very much. This past weekend we binged the first season of My Hero Academia, which is an anime series, and we went to see the movie in the theater. There's a second film that came out.
Yeah,
and this is something we could talk about in media nerds as far as we've talked in the past about movies and how their business model doesn't work, and because they've got like all these shows happening throughout the week that are empty theaters. Like, there's just nobody there on a Thursday night watching a movie. I went there on a Sunday afternoon, and there was only a limited amount of screenings for this film, for this My Hero Academia. One, there was showing in 3 theaters across the city, but only 1 showing per day. And it was packed. We walked in there, and we could not find seats together. It was insane. It was not even. Never saw. The only time I've seen a movie like that is when I go see Star Wars. Like the only time I've ever seen a packed theater. This is a Sunday afternoon. Bunch of anime fans, and so we watched the film, and then we went home and watched the series. And it's very good. But yeah, it's very much a kids thing.
They have the action figures at GameStop. My Hero Academia.
Yeah.
But the figures are sealed in a cardboard box, so you can't actually see what they look like.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, I was kind of interested when I saw the title of it. I was like, I work in an academic environment. I would love to see what these figures are.
It's basically Superhero Academy. That's what it is.
Yeah,
it's about people have all these superpowers. I think the designs are really cool. You probably would like them. They've got some really interesting and different designs for those figures, so that'd be interesting to see.
Yeah.
All right, I want to finish up today by talking a little bit more about Jedi Fallen Order, which I'm continuing to play for the Xbox, and I've
whether
made some
you
headway.
want to or not.
I'm really on the fence as to whether or not I want to continue this. A couple more gripes I have with this game. Number one, and I've done some research on this. Apparently, a lot of this stuff borrows from what was the game called? Dark Souls. There's a game called Dark Souls, which I've never played.
Me neither.
But this game borrows a lot of its gameplay mechanics, and it's like the idea of the meditation point where you save the game and you can recharge your energy. That was something this other game did. There's a lot of similarities between the two games as far as this gameplay goes, which isn't great. It's not very original. A lot of people have said it's basically Dark Souls with a Star Wars skin on it, which is not great. So I finished, went back to Zepho, did the second round of Zepho, went back to Kashyyyk, did the second round of Kashyyyk. Now I'm back on Dathomir doing the second round of Dathomir, and it's so repetitive just going back to these same planets over and over again. I'm getting really tired of it.
Not much new happens.
Well, it's so frustrating. The only difference as far as difficulty goes, like usually when you set the difficulty on a game, and I know you like to go hard. When we played,
not this time. I didn't.
But when you play Gears of War together and we did those videos, you're like, let's go hard. I'm like, what? Like, I always start with like the medium or the default one, which is usually like not quite as easy. But you always go like super hard.
Yeah, because then you go back. Like I play it super hard the first time, then I go back play the easy one. You've earned all of the power ups, and you're just like pow 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 pow. You just like just mow through them.
So what is it in a game like Gears of War or Halo or another game? What does that difficulty change mean? Like what usually happens when you
harder enemies,
more enenemies, right? Sometimes there's more. Sometimes
sometimes they're just tougher.
They have. It takes longer to take them down. Sometimes they have better AI. Like they think a little bit more. Like they can dodge your attacks a bit better. I think the only difference in this game is that you don't take as much damage. I think that's the real difference here in this game. When you set it to the easiest level, which I'm on right now, it's a storytelling level. Basically, it's still hard to defeat these enemies. You have more chances to do it because you don't, like when they hit you, it barely hurts you. So they really have to hit you a lot to kill you. That's really what it is. And so, for example, I beat the Ninth Sister. That was a tough battle. It doesn't matter that I'm on easy. It was still tough to beat her.
Oh, that's a tough one.
But
you're almost done. You're getting close.
Okay, well, it's good to hear because, maybe I'll stick with it. Because I was like, I wonder what this would have been like on a more difficult level. And I'm looking at it going, it would just be the exact same battle. It's just that I would have died 10 million times before I finally beat her. Because it's a lot of the gameplay is about the parry and the dodge and the dip, duck, and dodge. And that kind of stuff. I'm not great at that. I'm not really good.
I just don't care enough.
I just like to mash the buttons. I mash the buttons. I do cool lightsaber moves, and I'm happy with that. That's all I really care about. So that's why I continue to have it on easy. But it does seem like a bit of a lazy, easy setting. If all you're going to do is make it tough, like just make my invincibility stronger, my thing stronger, then there's not really much of a challenge there. The puzzles are all the same. You still have to figure out where to pull the rock and push the thing and squeeze through the crevice and all.
Some of that's hard.
Yeah, because you don't know. You don't see it. The map is still difficult to read. I cannot.
That is my major complaint.
Sucks. I hate the map.
The map is terrible.
Yeah.
And the going back to a location and finding where you need to go.
Yeah, because
it's crazy.
Like,
I mean, why?
I went to Dathomir the first time because the thing told me to go there, and it was kind of an option. You could go there or go to Kashyyyk. I did go to Kashyyyk, but then I went back to Dathomir, and I got to a certain point. I couldn't get any further because you need the Jedi jump. You need the double jump thing, right? You can't get to that next level.
I remember that, yeah.
So you meet that weird old guy. Remember that guy?
Yes.
He's like, hey, here's it going. And he's like this weird old Jedi dude. I don't know who the hell he is.
No.
Anyway, and then you walk past him, and then there's this big gap, and you cannot jump that gap. There's
so you
no
got to
way.
go back.
So I got to go back to Kashyyyk or go wherever the hell I have to go. I think maybe it was Zepho.
It's down an elevator. Isn't there some weird...
I don't remember.
I don't remember.
So then you have to go back to do the other part. Then once you get that jump ability, then you come back to Dathomir and finish it. But I did go there. The one thing you get the first time you go to Dathomir is the double-bladed lightsaber, which is really cool. I like
Although
that.
I found the gameplay harder with the double blade.
I find it harder to reflect the bolts back of the stormtroopers and stuff.
Yeah.
So then you go back to Kashyyyk, and I have the major issue, I said this last time, is that you spend a good chunk of your time on Kashyyyk and other planets killing the local wildlife.
Yeah, you do.
And so you're killing giant spiders or slugs with ram horns or whatever the hell those things are. So not very imaginative of creature design here either. Like, I didn't know giant spiders existed in the Star Wars world. We didn't see them anywhere in the films. Like, we're just kind of, these are not really very clever. And so you spend all your time doing that, and then you finally get to this giant bird, and you have to help the bird. You help the giant bird. You pull a piece of metal out of its side, and then it gives you a ride up the tree or whatever. And like, okay, so what do you say? You're saying it's okay to kill some animals, but not all animals? Like, what's your message here? It's a little confusing.
And that's a hard little part of that level.
It is.
Trying to jump on the plants and slide down when it gives you the slide.
Yeah,
and you're jumping left and right and over, and
the ship is shooting at you in the middle of all that. I kind of liked that level because it was exciting, but it was like, wow, like. They're throwing a lot at you.
Yeah,
and
then sometimes out of the corner of your eye, you see like something you need to get, a power up or something, and you're like, that's not happening.
Done, gone.
And not only is it not happening, you will never find that slide again.
No, you can't go back. So then, there are a couple parts of that level where the big giant bird will give you a lift and fly you. Basically, just kind of go for a nice little fly, and it's very cinematic and very well rendered and beautiful. But then you come back and you're like, why couldn't the freaking ship that I'm on just flown me to this point?
Yeah.
Like, we've established that he can jump from a high distance off the ship. Just take me to like generally where Tarful is, and I'll jump off. How about that?
Yeah.
Instead of having to go through all this crap. Like that's true for almost every level of this. Every single level, the ship has to land a certain distance away, and you have to make your way through all these mazes and walls and vines, and there's all of these conveniently similar ways of.
Yes.
It's Jedi parkour. That's what Jack calls it. My son Jack called it Jedi parkour.
It's made for the character you have.
Right.
And if it's not, that means you missed something.
Right.
You got to go back and get that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else? There was something else.
The traveling to me is unconscionable. The no way to zoom to the force points, to the meditation points.
Yeah.
And you should be able to fast travel there because it just makes the game so frustrating when you can't.
You should not. There's no point at which you should ever have to retrace your steps, but you do that a lot. Like there's still new levels. Like even when you go back to the planet again, there are new parts to open up, which is good.
Good,
but I don't want to have to go through that old level just to get to the new level again.
No.
Like that's just ridiculous.
Park somewhere new,
and then you get lost. Yeah, park somewhere new. That's right. And then you get lost on the way. You can't remember which way you went.
Right.
And the map isn't helpful because you've unlocked everything on the map, so that's not showing you where to go.
It's not helpful. And sometimes you're even standing above where you need to go, and you don't know how to get down. Or up.
It's not showing you that.
There's
way.
different levels. Yeah, there's an elevator. But okay. And what makes me angrier is I finished playing the Doom game from, I think it was 2016.
Oh, yeah.
The Doom reboot.
That's very good, yeah.
Well, Jesus, like, we could have done that in this game.
Yeah.
Where it's got, like, little platforms, and what they do in and it looks like it's like this super cool constructed thing by Martians, because you're on Mars,
Right.
And so you can jump up, and it's got lights shining out of it, and you can jump up where the lights are shining, and so it sort of gives you some indication. And I never had to retrace my steps. I never knew, like, oh, I'm stuck. There's nowhere for me to go. That never happened. Like maybe once it happened, and I was like, oh, and I found it right away, sort of what to do. And it's more about the battle really than it is about being lost. But the other thing that the Doom game does is it saves more often. It lets you, go back. It lets you sort of go back. You can, once you've played through a mission, then you can play through it again. But it's chapters. It's short chapters. So it's just like a more, but now the difference is the story in Doom is nothing. Who cares?
Right.
It's just an excuse to
blast aliens or whatever. Yeah.
Whereas the story, and that's why I'll say to you, finish Fallen Order for the story, because what I'll say is the final thing that happens is it's truly terrifying. What had happened, I was not expecting what happened.
And you say I'm almost done?
You're getting there.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember.
I'm back on Dathomir. I'm back on Dathomir right now. The Night Sisters are like taunting me. I'm fighting off zombies, which are really easy to kill, and then other Dathomirians or whatever. Dudes like Darth Maul, those guys with the horns.
Oh yeah,
they are hard, just like the Stormtroopers. They are hard to kill.
They get easier as you get power up.
Yeah, I know, but it's still, it's like I got 3 of them coming at me, and if I wasn't on the super easy mode, I would have been dying all the time. Yeah. Some of those meditation points are poorly placed as well.
Oh, yeah.
There's one time where you get to Tarful, who's the chief of the Wookiees,
yeah,
and you talk to him. That's the point of this whole mission to Kashyyyk. And then you're finished, and then now you have to go somewhere else, and there's no freaking save point there. It's like, why wouldn't you put a save point right there by where this level ends?
Yeah.
I had to go through a different thing. I had to climb up another wall. And I was pretty close to dying too. I was like,
that's right.
You do suffer damage in the easy level, and I'd gone a long stretch without getting a recharge or whatever, and I'd used my stims already.
Yeah.
So I was like flashing red, and I still had to kind of make my way through some jungle and some monsters and stuff to get to the next save point. So it's very poorly placed. So overall, I'm not. I'll finish the game. We'll talk about the story part of it once I'm done the game. But I'm really like, it's not a great game in my opinion, and I'm really frustrated because there's not a lot of great Star Wars games.
The design is great. The look of it is great.
Well, that's always been the case. The last couple, like all the Battlefront games look great. That kind of stuff is fine, but the gameplay and the mechanics of it is not.
Gameplay, and for me, map is the cardinal sin.
Yeah, it's
the map and the no fast travel. Like, come on, that you can justify fast travel in a game quite easily, and because they have a ship, the fast travel can be, I got in the ship and they dropped me off here. They got in the ship, they dropped me off here. You don't need to walk. Like, to retrace steps where you've already seen it a million times, and the only thing you're fighting is the thing that's respawned from before.
Right, yes.
Who cares?
Yes, no, I don't want to kill the same spider 3 times.
That same beast on the planet you're on, on that main part of the level, there's that one beast walking around every single
Looks
damn
like a giant
time.
troll or whatever?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
but once you kill that beast, that's it. That's the end of the beast. Like, why does that guy respawn?
Or actually the one part of it I didn't mind was the bat or whatever, that giant bat part was. He comes crashing through, and you have to fight him, and so it looks like a big bat. And
I don't remember this.
So you fight. It's on Dathomir, and so you fight him, and he goes. He's got like a little bit left on his health meter, and he goes flying off. Like, you scare him away. Then he comes back, and you have to spend part of this thing like trying to, like, you're free falling, and you have to try and line yourself up. That was frustrating too, because I had to do that a million times. So you're free falling, you have to line yourself up, so you're going to catch him, and then you catch him and go crashing through all these things, and eventually he dies. You don't really do much in that level other than grab onto the thing.
I was grateful for any level that, like, just helped me, that did that took me someplace. Because it was like, even the slides. Like, you're like, if I go down the slide, am I ever coming back up?
No. You're not.
And there's many times where I was just like, oh, I give up. This is garbage. Like, I can't find my way out of here. This is the worst.
This is how I feel every time I play this game.
It's so frustrating. But the story is better than average for a Star Wars game.
Right.
It absolutely is. And the ending in particular, there's good stuff there. But you know what? These gameplay fixes would be easy. It'd be easy. It's not a hard fix.
It feels to me, and I don't know much about game development, and maybe we should bring someone in here to some of our former students work at Ubisoft. Maybe they can speak to this kind of thing, but I would love to know.
They're not allowed to.
But no, that's a different company. Like, Ubisoft does not make this game. They make like the Assassin's Creed games and that kind of stuff. but I would like to know kind of like what's the time? Are we rushing to get this out in time for a certain date? Do you want to get this out before it was released just before the new movie came out, right?
Right.
It came out in December.
Yeah.
So I think they want to hit that December timeline so that they're going to get out there for the Christmas season before the movie comes out. So they have a deadline, but they're not like they're rushing through stuff just to make it happen.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas you need to make sure like these things should be thought out beforehand. They shouldn't be. It shouldn't be up to us to think of these things. Other people should be thinking of them.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Every time. By the way, there's one of our students working at Ubisoft, and every time there's one achievement that I couldn't get on Far Cry 5. One achievement, and so every time I see him, I'm like, why do they have to make the weapon takedown so hard? Why? Every time I see him, he's like, ha ha ha. Like he doesn't have an answer.
He wasn't even working there when they made Far Cry 5.
No, but it drives me nuts having that one whatever not completed.
Okay.
As I say, like
you're a completionist. You like to do everything.
I am never going to walk around in Grand Theft Auto shooting pigeons again. Like that's all I'm going to say. I'm not. I'm becoming less of a completist.
I would like to actually revisit Grand Theft Auto because I've not played that in a while, and I kind of want to. I feel like every time I go to turn on Star Wars, and again, I have to play one game at a time. I don't have enough time to do a multi-gaming sessions or whatever. So I play a little bit every day, basically, of Star Wars. But once I'm done, I might actually go back to Grand Theft Auto for a little bit. Although you have given me a few other games as well.
Aren't we due for a Grand Theft Auto? It's been a while.
Oh, it has been. Yeah, you're right. It has been.
You would think.
I don't know, 5-6 years now.
Yeah, it's been a stretch.
We'll have to take a look at that for media nerds and see what's going on there. Talk about video games. All right. That's going to do it for this episode of Star Wars Nerds. I'm Dan Vadabonker.
I'm Kenton Larson. Don't let the Force hit you on the ass.
Going to Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
That's not a move.
We're all fine here now, thank you. How are you?
Now I am the master. I'm taking an awful risk,